The nights you spent weeping in silence, clutching your pillow while no one heard the cries of your heart, may have felt like the loneliest hours of your life. The world slept while you wrestled with questions that tore through your soul. You wondered if God had turned his face away, if the heavens had gone silent, if your prayers dissolved into the air without ever reaching him. Yet, what you could not see was that every tear you shed was counted, every sigh was heard, and every ache was recorded in the heart of the one who loves you beyond measure. There is a holy mystery in suffering, one we seldom comprehend while standing in its shadow. Pain narrows our vision, convincing us that sorrow will never end. Nights stretch longer than days, and silence seems louder than words. But within those very moments of breaking, God is writing a story that will one day leave you in awe. The tears you thought were wasted are seeds planted in the soil of your destiny, and though you could not see beneath the ground, those seeds have been watered by heaven itself, preparing to bloom into joy that cannot be stolen. Do you realize that tears are not just the language of sorrow, but the ink God uses to rewrite your future? When the psalmist declared, "Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning," he was not speaking of a casual comfort. He was revealing the eternal truth, that no night is endless and no pain is permanent. For every midnight of anguish, there is a sunrise of favor. For every valley of despair, there is a mountaintop of laughter. The same God who allowed the storm also holds the rainbow, and he never leaves his children in ashes without preparing a crown of beauty. Perhaps you think your story has been written in permanent ink, pages filled with rejection, betrayal, and heartache. Yet God specializes in rewriting lives. He takes the manuscript that you thought was ruined and transforms it into a testimony of his power. What once read as failure will be rewritten as faith. What once sounded like defeat will be sung as deliverance. And the tears that blurred your vision will soon be remembered as the very evidence of his compassion. But here lies the greater truth. God is not only preparing to end your sorrow, he is preparing to display his favor upon your life in ways that cannot be denied. His blessings will not come quietly. They will be visible even to those who mocked your pain. The same people who whispered about your breakdown will witness your breakthrough. The nights of silent weeping will be exchanged for mornings of undeniable joy. Where there was emptiness, abundance will flow. Where there was shame, honor will be placed. And where there was despair, laughter will echo. So I ask you this: will you dare to believe that the author of your life has not closed the book? Will you trust that every tear has been kept as a promise of joy yet to come? Can you imagine that the very pain which tried to break you is the material God is weaving into a masterpiece? Beloved, your nights are not forgotten. They are sacred. They have prepared you for a joy that does not merely comfort, but overwhelms. The same hands that shaped the universe now reach to wipe your tears, not only to remove them, but to replace them with favor. Your story is about to be rewritten, not with sorrow, but with the ink of God's joy. And when that day dawns, you will not remember the tears with bitterness, but with gratitude, for you will see how they led you to the very place where God's goodness overwhelmed your life. There are moments in life when tears become the only language the heart knows how to speak. You may not have had words for the pain. You may not have been able to explain to anyone the depth of your sorrow, the crushing weight of betrayal, or the loneliness that crept into your nights. Yet, the remarkable truth is this: every tear you shed has been seen by God. Not one has been lost in silence. Not one has been wasted in the darkness. Scripture tells us that he bottles our tears, as though they are treasures too valuable to discard. Think of that for a moment. The very drops of sorrow that fell from your eyes are collected by the Creator of the heavens, stored as evidence of your endurance and as seeds for your future joy. So often, we believe that no one notices our suffering. Friends may walk away, family may grow tired of hearing our cries, and even our closest confidants may not grasp the depths of what we're experiencing. And when we feel unseen, we begin to think that our pain is meaningless. But God whispers a different story. He says, "I have watched every midnight hour you've endured. I have seen you when you thought you were invisible. I have heard the cries that never left your lips, but were only groans of the soul." This is the comfort of divine love. It does not overlook even the smallest detail of your anguish. Tears in the hands of God are not symbols of weakness. They are sacred offerings. They testify to your humanity and your endurance. They reveal that despite being wounded, you continued to trust. They carry your faith even when it felt fragile, and in ways unseen to you, those tears are watering the soil of your destiny. For just as rain brings life to the earth, your tears are bringing forth life to your future. Imagine a farmer sowing seed in the ground. He does so with patience, knowing that though the soil looks barren, life is being cultivated beneath the surface. So it is with your tears. You may not see the growth immediately. You may not sense that anything good is happening in your midnight hours. But deep in the hidden places of your life, God has been working. He has been nurturing what your tears have sown, preparing for a harvest that will one day cause you to rejoice. And this is why your tears matter so profoundly. They are not evidence of defeat, but of transformation. They mean you survived when you could have quit. They mean your heart, though bruised, still beats with faith. They mean that though others might have mocked or ignored your pain, heaven bore witness. Every sigh was a prayer. Every sob was a cry for God's presence. Every tear was a note in a song only He could hear. So when you think of your nights in sorrow, remember this truth. Those tears were never wasted. They have been counted, stored, and sanctified by the one who has promised to turn your mourning into dancing. The beauty of God's promises is that they always carry both honesty and hope. He does not deny that nights of weeping exist. He does not tell us to pretend that pain isn't real. Instead, He acknowledges the heaviness of human sorrow. Weeping may endure for a night. That word endure tells us something. It means that sorrow lingers, sometimes longer than we want. It means there are seasons where the tears seem unending, where the night feels stretched beyond measure, yet the promise is just as clear. Though sorrow may endure, it does not reign forever. For as sure as the night has its darkness, the morning has its dawn. Think about the rhythm of creation. No night, no matter how long, has ever succeeded in preventing the sunrise. The stars may fade, the moon may linger, but dawn always breaks. God has woven into creation itself a testimony of His faithfulness. Morning always follows night. In the same way, no season of sorrow can hold you indefinitely. It must give way to joy, because joy is not a fleeting emotion but the inheritance of those who trust in God. And notice that the scripture does not simply say joy will come someday. It says joy comes in the morning. It is certain, specific, and unstoppable. Just as you cannot hold back the light of dawn, the enemy cannot hold back the joy God has ordained for your life. The weeping may feel like a permanent chapter, but in truth, it is only a temporary page. The author of your story has already written the sunrise into your script. Here's the profound reality. Your mornings of joy are not only about relief, they are about transformation. They come to prove that sorrow does not have the final word. God allows the night so that you might appreciate the dawn. He permits the tears so that you might truly value the laughter. Without the valley, we could not treasure the mountaintop. Without the storm, the rainbow would lose its wonder. And so, in the economy of heaven, your weeping is the soil that makes your joy flourish, brighter, fuller, deeper. When morning comes, you will see that God never abandoned you in the night. He was the one holding you when you had no strength left. He was the unseen presence that kept you breathing when despair told you to give up. And when joy breaks through, it will not come as a subtle whisper, but as a sunrise so radiant that it silences the memory of the night. Perhaps right now you are standing in the middle of your longest night, wondering if the morning will ever come. But hear this: dawn is not delayed, it is being prepared. God is aligning circumstances, shifting situations, and arranging blessings to break forth at just the right time. And when that morning arrives, it will not merely bring happiness, it will bring favor that rewrites your story. So let the night endure, let the tears flow, for joy, like the sunrise, is already on its way. And when it arrives, you will know that the God who promised is faithful beyond all doubt. When you look back over your life, you may see chapters written in pain, betrayal, and disappointment. The ink of those experiences may feel permanent, as though your story is already sealed with sorrow. But here lies the extraordinary truth of God's nature. He is the author who never runs out of ink. He specializes in rewriting lives. Where you see finality, he sees opportunity. Where you see a ruined page, he sees a canvas ready to be transformed. Think of the stories scattered throughout Scripture. Joseph's life was a tale of betrayal by his own brothers, slavery, and imprisonment. If the story had ended there, it would have been one of tragedy. But God stepped in to rewrite it. The very betrayal that sought to destroy Joseph became the stage for his elevation to power, where he would save nations and even the brothers who betrayed him. What looked like a tragic ending was only a prelude to a victorious chapter, and the same is true for you. God does not ignore the painful chapters of your story. He redeems them. He takes what was meant for evil and uses it for good. He takes rejection and transforms it into redirection. He takes loss and reshapes it into abundance. Even the mistakes you made, the choices that you regret, are not beyond his pen. He writes mercy where there was failure, grace where there was sin, and restoration where there was loss. He is not intimidated by the mess of your manuscript. Instead, he is eager to prove that his editing hand can turn even the darkest chapters into testimonies of his power. It is easy to believe that others are worthy of such rewriting, but harder to believe for yourself. You may tell yourself that too much damage has been done, too many tears have been shed, too much time has been wasted. But God does not measure his ability by your past. He does not consult your failures to decide your future. The author of eternity is not limited by the scribbles of sorrow written across your life. He sees what you cannot see, and he knows how to bring beauty from ashes. The key is to let him hold the pen. Too often, we cling to the story as if we must finish it ourselves. We try to write endings with bitterness, despair, or vengeance. But when we surrender the pen to God, he begins to write with words of hope, joy, and favor. What once read as tragedy begins to shift into triumph. The story changes, not because you erased the past, but because God infused it with new meaning. So, when you think your life is permanently scarred by nights of weeping, remember this: the author has not finished writing. Your tears are not the conclusion of the story, but the raw material for his next chapter. What was once written in sorrow will be rewritten with his joy. And when people read the pages of your life, they will not only see pain, they will see the fingerprints of a God who rewrites stories with glory. There is a deep comfort in knowing that God's blessings are not hidden in secrecy, but revealed in plain sight. The same people who witnessed your weeping, who mocked your pain, or who turned away from your suffering, will one day stand as witnesses to your restoration. For God does not bless you in the shadows. He blesses you in the open, so that His glory is undeniable. This truth echoes throughout Scripture. When Daniel was thrown into the lion's den, his enemies thought they had sealed his fate. They mocked his faith, convinced that the night would end with his destruction. Yet God shut the mouths of the lions, and when the morning came, Daniel was not only alive, but lifted higher in honor, while those who mocked him faced the very judgment they intended for him. God did not just deliver Daniel privately. He did it in a way that the entire kingdom had to acknowledge. That is how God works. He vindicates His children openly. In your life too, there are those who may have doubted you, dismissed you, or even taken pleasure in your tears. They may have whispered about your struggles, laughed at your setbacks, or celebrated your failures. But God's favor is preparing to silence every mocking voice. The blessings He has stored up for you are not merely personal comforts. They are testimonies of His power. When He restores you, it will not be in secret. It will be in such a way that even your critics cannot deny His hand upon your life. This is why your nights of weeping carry a weight of glory. They are not simply seasons of pain. They are stages being set for divine favor. Just as a stage must be prepared before the performance, so your trials have prepared the stage for God's blessing. And when the curtain lifts, His glory will not only comfort your heart, but also stand as a witness before others. Think about the power of this truth. The very people who said you would never rise will have to watch as God elevates you. The same ones who mocked your faith will have to admit that it was your faith that carried you. The ones who celebrated your pain will be silenced by your joy. This is not about revenge. It is about vindication. It is about God displaying His faithfulness so that His name is glorified through your story. And this is why you must not despise your tears. They are the proof that you endured the night. And because you endured, you will also see the morning. And when that morning comes, it will shine not only for you, but before everyone who ever doubted that God was with you. So hold fast, even when the night feels long, for favor is coming, and when it comes, it will not be hidden in silence. It will be displayed openly, rewriting your story with joy, and proving to all that the God who saw your tears is the same God who crowns you with His favor. There are seasons in life when emptiness becomes overwhelming. You sit at the table of your soul and all you see is lack of love, lack of peace, lack of opportunity, lack of hope. The nights you spent in tears may have been nights where you wondered if your life would ever be full again. You looked at what was missing more than what was present, and the void seemed louder than any promise. But God is a God who delights in taking empty places and filling them with abundance. Think of the widow in Scripture who came to the prophet Elisha with nothing but a small jar of oil. To her it was not enough. It was the symbol of her emptiness. But in God's hands, that little oil became a river of abundance, flowing until every vessel was filled. This is His way. He does not ignore your emptiness. He transforms it into overflow. What you see as the end of your resources, He sees as the beginning of His supply. Your nights of weeping were not simply moments of sorrow. They were cries for fullness, and God heard those cries. He has not left you to remain in emptiness. Instead, He has been preparing to pour His blessings in ways that will surprise you. Abundance in God's economy is not only about material provision, it is about the fullness of peace that silences your anxiety, the fullness of joy that drowns out despair, the fullness of hope that reignites your future, and the fullness of love that heals the wounds others inflicted. The world often measures abundance by what we can hold in our hands, but heaven measures it by what overflows from our hearts. When God fills you, He does not simply give enough to survive, He gives enough to overflow. The very areas where you once felt empty will become the very places where you carry testimony. The jar that was once dry will be the jar that pours into others. The heart that was once broken will carry so much love that it heals others who are hurting. But here lies the mystery. God often allows seasons of emptiness so that when abundance comes, we recognize its source. If we were never empty, we might attribute our fullness to our own strength. But when you have walked through the valley of lack, when you have tasted the bitterness of nothingness, then the sweetness of God's abundance cannot be mistaken. You will know it was Him. So if you are standing in emptiness now, do not despair, for in God's timing, emptiness is only the prelude to overflow. He does not leave His children hungry. He fills them until they cannot contain the blessing. Your tears of emptiness are about to be exchanged for laughter of abundance. Shame is one of the heaviest burdens the human heart can carry. It is not just the memory of what was done to you, but the mark it leaves on your soul. People may have mocked you, belittled you, or tried to convince you that you were unworthy. Their words, their rejection, and their betrayal may have left you feeling less than who God created you to be. The nights you spent in tears may not only have been from pain, but from the shame of being misunderstood, mistreated, or abandoned. But here is the promise. God never leaves His children in shame. He is the lifter of heads, the restorer of dignity, and the one who clothes His beloved with honor. The scripture tells us that instead of shame, His people will receive a double portion of blessing. This is not a metaphor. It is a divine exchange. Where others sought to disgrace you, God seeks to honor you. Where others mocked you in public, God will elevate you in public. Where you bowed your head in humiliation, He will cause you to raise it high in confidence. Think of Hannah in the Bible, mocked by her rival because of her barrenness. Year after year, her tears fell in silence. Yet God heard them, and in His timing He gave her a son, Samuel, who would become one of the greatest prophets of Israel. The shame of her barrenness was erased by the honor of her testimony. God turned her tears into a legacy. This is how He works. He does not just remove shame, He replaces it with something greater. He replaces it with something greater. Perhaps people have labeled you, reducing your identity to your pain. Perhaps they have looked at your brokenness and assumed you would never rise again. But God does not define you by the shame others placed on you. He defines you by His love and His purpose. And in His perfect time, He will elevate you so that those who once shamed you will be left in awe of what He has done in your life. Honor in God's kingdom is not about applause or recognition from people. It is about divine vindication. It is about God proving, not only to others, but also to you, that you were never forsaken, never forgotten, never abandoned. He takes the ashes of your shame and crafts a crown of honor. He takes the garment of sorrow and clothes you with robes of righteousness. He is alone with robes of righteousness. And when that moment comes, your tears will no longer be a symbol of shame, but of strength. You will look back and see that the nights of humiliation were the very soil from which God raised honor. He will not only lift you from shame, but place you in positions of favor that no one can deny. So lift your head, even if your heart feels heavy. For shame is not your final chapter. God is writing honor into your story, and it will be so evident that even those who try to disgrace you will not be able to deny it. Despair is a heavy cloak. It sits on the shoulders like a weight that refuses to be lifted. It whispers that tomorrow will be no different than today, that your story is already written in darkness, that hope is a cruel illusion. Those nights you spent in tears may not have been only moments of sadness, but seasons of despair, where you wondered if joy would ever return. The silence of the night made despair feel louder, convincing you that nothing would change. But despair, no matter how loud, does not have the authority to write your final chapter. God's promise is that He turns mourning into dancing and sorrow into laughter. Laughter is not just an emotion, it is a declaration. It says, "The darkness did not win, the tears did not break me, the night did not define me." Laughter after despair is the sound of victory. It is the melody of a soul that has tasted God's faithfulness and found it sweeter than the pain of the past. Consider Sarah, Abraham's wife. She lived decades in the despair of barrenness. When the angel of the Lord told her she would bear a child, she laughed, not with joy, but with disbelief. Yet in God's time she gave birth to Isaac, whose name means laughter. Her despair was not only removed, but rewritten with laughter so profound that her story became a testament for generations. What once caused her tears became the source of her greatest joy. This is how God works. He does not simply end despair. He replaces it with a joy so overwhelming that it produces laughter, not the shallow laughter of a fleeting joke, but the deep, healing laughter that bubbles from a soul restored. The kind of laughter that makes others marvel, wondering how someone who endured so much pain could radiate so much joy. That is the laughter of redemption. And this laughter will not only comfort you, it will testify to others. Those who saw you in despair will witness the transformation. They will remember the tears you shed in silence, the heaviness that once weighed on you, and they will see that the God you trusted has turned your story around. Your laughter will not just be for you, it will be a light to others still walking through their night. So hold on, even when despair feels permanent, for laughter is being prepared for you. God has not forgotten the nights you wept. He has stored them as the very seeds of the laughter to come. And when it breaks forth, it will not only heal your heart, but echo as a declaration to the world. Despair does not win. God does. Beloved, the nights you spent in tears were not wasted. They were sacred. They were seen. They were heard. They were kept in the heart of the God who never leaves His children in sorrow without preparing joy. Every tear you cried has been gathered as evidence for the miracle He is about to release. The long nights of despair were not the end of your story. They were the soil for His favor, the canvas for His rewriting, the stage for His glory. You may have walked through emptiness, but abundance is coming. You may have carried shame, but honor is being prepared. You may have endured despair, but laughter is on the horizon. The same God who allowed your nights of weeping has already scheduled your mornings of joy. And when those mornings arrive, you will not simply rejoice, you will testify. You will look back and say, "If it had not been for the Lord, I would have been consumed. But He turned my mourning into dancing, my sorrow into joy, my despair into laughter." So lift your eyes, weary soul. The author of your story is not finished. The God who saw your tears is now writing favor into your future. And soon, the same nights that once crushed you will be remembered as the nights that prepared you for joy too great to contain. Your tears are about to be rewritten with His joy. Your sorrow is about to be overshadowed by His favor. And your story, yes, your story, is about to become a living testimony of His power, His love, and His unshakable faithfulness.